Hey guys, is it okay if I show you more proof that the unified ledger, the shared ledger, regulated liability network, regulated internet of value is the XRP ledger? I make it very clear for the community once and for all so that the central bankers can stop deceiving my friends in the quant community and also deceiving the people that might be new to XRP. Is it okay with you guys if I settle this right now, show you a whole bunch of proof that it's not quant? Quant plays a huge role in providing interoperability, programmability for the legacy systems to connect into the shared ledger, but the shared ledger is not quant, okay? And I'm just going to pound these videos. I'm not going to stop until I get through most people because I don't like the central bankers and these powerful institutions deceiving my friends in the quant community and also deceiving people who are new to the XRP community. I'm going to show you more evidence again that the unified ledger, the shared ledger, is the XRP ledger. And the regulated liability network, regulated settlement network, the FinTernet, regulated internet of value, unified ledger, shared ledger, it's technically all the same thing. They're using different names every time to try to confuse you. I know very well what role quant plays here. I'm not saying quant is not being used. If you watch any of my other videos, you'll see how crazy bullish I am on quant. I know very well how quant works. I've studied it for over 4,000 hours. I'm very aware of everything that Gilbert has ever said about quant. I don't want you to think that I don't know anything about quant, and that's why I think the XRP ledger is the shared ledger. No, that's not the reason. I believe the XRP ledger is the shared ledger, unified ledger, because that's what it is. There is no other option. That's what it is. So let's get into it, guys. Before I get started, thank you so much for your support, guys. Please subscribe, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I really appreciate all the support you've been giving me, guys. As I've said before, Gilbert Verdian said we also partnered with R3, who is bringing in the shared ledger where all of the tokenized assets will reside. And he was referring to the regulated liability network when he was saying that. So let's listen to what he says here real quick.
In the project, we're bringing a multitude of solutions and technology. This includes enhanced programmability, which is over and above what we've done before in CBDCs and fit for commercial banks, interoperability across networks and different types of DLTs, the interconnectivity of all of this is orchestrated through our technology and presented through a banking grade API. We're also partnering with R3 on the project, which are bringing in the shared ledger where all the tokenized assets will reside.
So they're partnering with R3, who is bringing in the shared ledger where all of the tokenized assets will reside. Now let's look at what Tony McLaughlin from Citibank said in regards to the shared ledger. This was during the Citibank Digital Dispatch, Episode 1, Regulated Liability Network. This released about 6 weeks ago. Of course, they deleted the video. You can't find the video anymore because they don't want us to figure out what the heck's going on. Now then, if you zoom out, there are 25,000 banks, let's say, in the world. So 25,000 data centers, 25,000 databases, separate islands of data. And shared ledger and blockchain, you've got a common database essentially. So the question is there the possibility to migrate the traditional banking system? So take the same kind of institutions, take the central banks, the commercial banks and fintechs and migrate them onto a shared ledger. Remember, Gilbert Verdian said the shared ledger. Now, Tony McLaughlin here is saying a shared ledger, right? And that's what the regulated liability network essentially is. That's what he says here. He's saying, so migrate them onto a shared ledger, and that's what the regulated RLN here, that's what the regulated liability network essentially is. So you've got Tony McLaughlin saying that the shared ledger is the regulated liability network. It's the same thing, basically, is what he's telling you here. So this was a presentation and the diagram, the core RLN infrastructure. Now, Gilbert always said we provide the programmability and interoperability, okay, for the regulated liability network. He said we provided the programmability and the interoperability and custom APIs. And we partnered with R3, who's bringing in the shared ledger. Look at this diagram here real clear. Right here, you've got the workflow, the orchestration layer, including overledger. It's the orchestration layer right here. So what you have to notice here is you've got 3 core layers here in green. You've got one here, the common RLN API layer. Gilbert Verdian said we provided the API layer. And you've got the common RLN orchestration and programmability layer. And right here, you see right here on the right-hand side here, I'll zoom in right here, you've got Quant. So these are the 2 layers for Quant, because he said he provided common API and the programmability and interoperability. So right here at the bottom, you see the shared ledger. And you see how everything's connecting into the shared ledger. Quant is helping to connect everything into the shared ledger using the API gateways here. API gateway. Right here, workflow orchestration, including over ledger. And what do you see for the shared ledger here? R3. This shared ledger here, R3 is bringing the shared ledger to the project. And you've got R3 Corda Digital Currencies app, the R3 Corda. Anytime anybody says R3, they're referring to the R3 Corda app. And the R3 Corda app is technically built on the Corda settler. The Corda settler exclusively uses XRP for settlement. R3 received 5 billion XRPs from Ripple many years ago. There was a deal between R3 and Ripple, and R3 had to bring utility, had to bring volume to the XRP ledger, and they were given 5 billion XRPs. Now, there was a lawsuit because it seems that R3 wasn't really holding their weight as much as they should for receiving these XRPs, and it was settled. The lawsuit was settled. They ended up keeping 1 billion XRP from what we understand. Now, what you have to understand is, do you really believe that R3 received these XRPs for free, for nothing? Like this, you're talking originally 5% of the supply of XRP. Okay, this is 10% of what's in the escrow. Originally is what R3 received. And after the settlement, from what we're told, I guess it's supposed to be 1 billion that they get to keep after the lawsuit was settled. Now, with all of the central banks in the world, there's over 150 or 200 central banks in the world, plus you've got the IMF, you've got the World Bank, and you've got the DTCC that settles almost 3.4 quadrillion this year. Do you really believe that out of all of these super powerful institutions that Ripple could be giving these XRP to? Do you really think they're going to give that much to R3 for no reason when they could have been giving them to all these other institutions that are like crazy powerful central banks? Like R3 is not receiving 5 billion XRPs originally for nothing. Like you don't give 5 billion XRPs just for fun. It's ridiculous, guys. R3 has to be bringing something to the table, and that is the shared ledger right here. Now you see these partitions here, wrapped CBDC. This is a wholesale CBDC, W CBDC partition, R CBDC partition, TD partition. These are partitions, central bank, member bank. So this is TD. These are ledgers. And when you study how the XRP ledger was built, the XRP ledger has numerous sidechains. These are carbon copy clones of the XRP ledger. So they're clones, they're identical to the XRP ledger, and the central banks are building their CBDCs on sidechains of the XRP ledger. So the XRP ledger is a shared ledger by definition, and I've shown that in other videos where I go more detail. The XRP ledger is a shared ledger by definition. So these ledgers here that you're seeing, these partitions, they're calling them partitions, but these are actually sidechains of the XRP ledger. And we know that XLM is involved too, because technically XLM is just a carbon copy, technically a copy of the XRP ledger. That's what Stellar is. And we see that both of them are built on top of the Interledger Protocol, which we're seeing on all of the BIS documents. We see the Unified Ledger, Finternet being connected with the Interledger Protocol. These are sidechains or ledgers, which are part of the XRP ledger. These are sidechains of the XRP ledgers. Central banks are building their CBDCs on sidechains of the XRP ledger. Right here, you see how the Unified Ledger at the bottom here, Unified Ledger is connected with the Unified Interledger Protocol. They call it the Unified Interledger Protocol now. There is no other Interledger Protocol. There is only one, and it's XRP. It's Ripple, the company who built the Interledger Protocol. It's Ripple that built the Interledger Protocol, and the XRP Ledger is built on top of the Interledger Protocol. And the XRP Ledger also has a built-in decentralized exchange. On top of it, it also has CBDC platform where central banks are building their CBDCs on. Like I said, you can see that on the Ripple website. Now you've got another diagram here from the BIS where it shows Unified Ledger. They're connecting with the Interledger Protocol, Unified Ledger, Shared Ledger, all the same thing. Now you've got another document here that came from the Hyperledger Foundation, which is the biggest consortium of banks, tech companies, universities, even central banks, all over the world. Every top tech company is involved here. I've shown this before, and they were showing how they were going to build the Internet of Value. It was showing how it was only about 14 pages. They're showing how they created the Internet of Information and how they were going to create the Internet of Value. And what do you see here? Again, this is the ILP. You got to look closely here. ILP, Interledger Protocol. Interledger Protocol, Interledger Protocol. And you've got the XRP Ledger right in the middle here, XRP Ledger. That's your shared ledger right here, my friends. This is your unified ledger. You want to call it the regulated liability network. You want to call it the regulated internet of value, which is what it was originally called. When they talked about the regulated liability network, the first time they ever mentioned it, it was called the regulated internet of value. Isn't that interesting? So right here, this is your shared ledger, your regulated internet of value, your regulated liability network, your regulated settlement network. They got many different names for it because they don't want you, my friend, to know what the heck is going on. They don't want you to know that this is all the XRP ledger. And Quant over ledger, it's an overlay. Quant provides the interoperability and the programmability for everything that exists, all the legacy systems that exist today, which every industry that we have today uses legacy systems. So Quant allows all of these legacy systems to connect into the shared ledger so that we can bring all those use cases and that utility to money. That's Quant's role. Quant is not the shared ledger. Every central bank has so this is your main ledger. This is the unified ledger, shared ledger, call it what you want. These are technically shared ledgers as well. These are your CBDCs here. These are the RTGS system, real-time gross settlement systems. You've got the Bank of Japan, Target2, Fedwire, which is the US, right? You've got CHAPS, you've got CFETX, which is, I think that's Russia, I'm not sure. All of these are on RTGS systems, all the central banks. These are all shared ledger technically. Because like I said, these are carbon copy. Right here, the central banks are building on side chains of the XRP ledger. So these are side chains of the XRP ledger. And those side chains are identical to the XRP ledger. These side chains that the central banks are tokenizing everything and building their CBDCs on are carbon copy clones of the XRP ledger. So these side chains have all of the features. These are your shared ledgers right here. Every central bank has a shared ledger. But what's very interesting here that nobody's talking about is see how the XRP ledger is the global RTGS. So it's the RTGS system for all of the central banks. This is the central banks of central banks here. The Interledger Protocol, ILP, will enable financial institutions and central banks to make their existing infrastructure and processes interoperable with other currencies, asset classes, and the XRP ledger, the global liquidity marketplace, and the global decentralized RTGS system. Isn't that interesting? It says the global, okay, the XRP ledger is the global liquidity marketplace and the global decentralized RTGS. It's very important to note, guys, that the Overledger, Quant Overledger, and the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol is not the same as the Interledger Protocol. They don't do the same thing. The Interledger Protocol, which XRP is built on, is a very specialized protocol for connecting exchange networks. The Quant Overledger, is a very special operating system for connecting all of the legacy systems that exist today to blockchain, especially the shared ledger, which is the XRP ledger, and the other blockchains. And at the same time, it also allows you, Quant Overledger also allows the world to build what are called multi-chain applications. So these are MDApps. These are applications that allow you to use the best features of each blockchain. Only Quant does that. Quant is the internet of trust and XRP is the internet of value. And so XRP is the Finternet. It's the financial internet, right? Internet of value, financial internet. They changed the name again because they don't want you to know it's the XRP ledger. So the shared ledger, unified ledger, regulated liability network. Like I said, this is all the XRP ledger. Now, shout out to XRP Drops using the video that he posted showing that it's the Ripple company that built the Interledger Protocol. So just listen 2 minutes here real quick. Okay, so here we're just going to watch a video here showing that it's Ripple that built the Interledger Protocol, just so there's no confusion.
So Interledger was a project that we invented while working at Ripple and then spun out as a separate open source project. And then Ripple's been paying a team of people to work on it full time for the past couple of years.
The challenge is for us to develop protocols that can allow us to make payments across those silos so that we can have payment systems, currencies, and protocols that are optimized for distinct use cases. That's what got Ripple interested in looking at protocols like Interledger.
If you wanted to visualize what Interledger looks like, you could draw it something like this, where it's basically, just like the internet is based around routers, Interledger is based around a very similar concept of connectors. And what they do is they receive these, what we call Interledger packets, which are just packets of data. They look at a routing table, just a router would, and then they decide which peer they want to forward that packet to. They might do a few things that routers don't do, such as the packet that's coming in has an amount on it, and the link that I have where the packet is coming in might be denominated in a different currency than the link going out, and so I have to apply an exchange rate. But other than that, it is very similar to what an internet router would do. But if you use something like a digital asset, maybe one that has payment channels where you can settle literally 1,000th of a cent and still have it be cost effective, you can settle all the time. You can settle after almost every packet.
With the Interledger Protocol and with Ripple software and using XRP, we've created an internet of
what it is and what makes it so beneficial.
So You can think of Interledger, it's like what the internet does at its core is route packets of data across different information networks. What Interledger does is route packets of money across different payment networks.
So Interledger Protocol is specially designed to connect payment networks for the exchange of value. Quant specializes, if you look at the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, which is technically the standardization of Quant over Ledger, what the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol does, it's to move value from one network to another. It's not to settle a transaction. It's not the same. It's not to exchange value from one form to another form. So this is a page here. This is from the Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructure for the BIS. Who do we have here? The good old BIS, the central banks of central banks, right? So July 8, 2024. This is the Cross-Border Payments, Interoperability and Extension Task Force. So this is the task force for the cross-border payments interoperability for the BIS. The only blockchain company, the only tech company for blockchain on this task force, the only one is Ripple. Right here. Ripple. Right here. The other ones are not blockchain companies. This is the only company. What a coincidence, right? And everybody thinks that, oh, since Quant is literally at the heart of, they're responsible for providing interoperability for all of the Innovation Hub projects, they think, a lot of people think, oh, Ripple's not needed anymore. No, it's not the same. So right here, look at this document here. There's no other company. And also, Ripple is the only company that is on the steering committee of the ISO 20022. I didn't say it's the only blockchain project that's compliant. It's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying it's the only one on the steering committee of the ISO 2002. Isn't that interesting as well? So this was an article here at medium.com that was just explaining that Ripple is now an official partner of the Cross-Border Payments Interoperability and Extension Task Force, a subgroup within the Bank for International Settlements Committee on Payments and Markets Infrastructure. Ripple and the BIS Innovation Hub will join forces on a project to actively access the interop. When they talk like this is complete BS, because it's BS like the BIS. Ripple's been working with the BIS for years because this has been planned for over 30, 40 years. This is a long story, but if you don't believe me, go and watch my video on the IMF and XRP. Unfortunately, the video was not edited properly. It was one of my first video. It's really too bad, but oh my goodness, this has been planned for many years. Now let's listen to Jeremy Allaire from Circle talking about using this liquidity layer. He says it's Bitcoin. Oh my goodness. This lying piece of, oh my goodness, I'm biting my tongue. But listen to what he says here. I'm going to show you something interesting here.
A market structure that is now being interacted with by the very largest financial institutions in the world, and they're coming together and working with great firms like Coinbase and others who are providing critical crypto infrastructure around some of this. So I think it's a
working with others that are actually creating the infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure for all this. He's referring to Ripple here. I'm going to prove this in a minute. He's referring to Ripple, but he's not allowed to say Ripple. You have to understand, he's not allowed to say Ripple.
very significant moment because it's demonstrating that you can have a security or a digital token and you can have this work together. But I think the broader piece here is it underscores that, at least in the case of the SEC, and you can read Gensler's comments, and I think he's being pretty transparent how he thinks about this, which is he lost a court case.
He talks about this underlying infrastructure, and then he talks about the SEC case against Ripple.
I think it's significant in many ways. What you actually have here is you have a market structure, a regulated market structure that is wrapped literally around cryptographic tokens, in this case Bitcoin tokens, and the safekeeping of those.
He's full of crap. Really? A market infrastructure that relies on wrapped Bitcoin? Complete BS. It's unbelievable. Why is he saying that? Because he's a liar, just like the other one sitting at the World Economic Forum there that want to basically decide everything for our lives, as if people are going to settle with Bitcoin. Complete BS. He's referring to the XRP Ledger here. Watch this.
The record keeping of those, and the actual underlying transfer and liquidity. And so that is
the underlying transfer of liquidity. What is Ripple's product? It's called on-demand liquidity. Listen to what he says again here.
The actual transfer and liquidity. And so that is
the underlying transfer of liquidity. Again, Ripple is called on-demand liquidity. Let's look at this document again here. Just 1 minute. What did this document say here that I showed you earlier, coming from the Hyperledger Foundation? It says the Interledger Protocol IOP will enable financial institutions and central banks to make their existing infrastructure and processes interoperable with other currencies, asset classes, and the XRP Ledger, which is what? The XRP Ledger is the global liquidity marketplace. The global liquidity marketplace. What did this clown just say a few minutes ago? So in the video that I showed you a few seconds ago, he's talking about like Bitcoin. But here, you're gonna see him in this video. This is a clip when he was sitting next to Brad Garlinghouse at the same corrupt, evil organization there, the World Economic Forum. And he said we could use a company like Brad's company to scale up. We could help to scale USDC and so on. And so unbelievable. Listen to what he says here. Is he talking about Bitcoin here? I know he is not. He is talking about Ripple. Listen to this, guys. And shout out to Jack the Rippler and to Digital Perspective, Brad Kimes.
Directly on the internet, between counterparties. If we can improve it with more scalable blockchain technologies like Brad's company provides, and we can make this extremely low cost to move, and then enable individuals with digital wallets that can interact, and you can scale into the risk, is the way I like to think.
Let's listen to that again.
With more scalable blockchain technologies like Brad's company provides.
That's Brad Garlinghouse. He's sitting on stage with him, right next to him. I couldn't find a clip where you see Brad. So guys, there is no doubt here. There is just some confusion that the quant community, not all the quant community, I'm just saying some people in the quant community, and some top researchers, like some very deep researchers of quant, are still saying that the unified ledger, shared ledger is quant. And still confused thinking it's quant, and it's not. It's just because they haven't researched XRP. They got into quant, researched quant for thousands of hours, or maybe hundreds of hours, and don't know much about XRP, or at least don't know enough to understand that XRP is the shared ledger. The Finternet is not quant. So there's no debate here, guys. The unified ledger, shared ledger, Finternet is the XRP ledger. I'm going to keep pounding that as long as I have to. And that's just to help the communities. It's just I don't like the central bankers and these powerful institutions deceiving my brothers and sisters in the quant community and the new members of the XRP community. And you're going to see me do videos and show you proof after proof. So you'll probably see another video soon that'll say part 3. And so thank you so much for subscribing. And also, before I forget, none of what I say is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't buy or sell crypto because of what I said. Do your own research. And thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Hit that button, please. Did you hit the button yet? I'm waiting. Did you hit it? No, I'm just teasing. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts, guys. So thank you so much for the comments, for all the support that I've been receiving from you guys. It's just unbelievable. You guys are kind, and it's just an honor to be here with you guys. And so wishing you a great day, great morning, great evening, wherever you are, and God bless you all. Thank you.